Joan has regrets, Glen wants more than a lock of hair, and I can't believe you had the balls to walk back in here after the way you embarrassed yourself. Tonight we're discussing episode 710 of Mad Men, The Forecast, on What's on the Box! Hi, I'm James.
And I'm James.
And this is What's on the Box, where we discuss the latest episode of your favorite TV show.
This week we're going to be talking about the latest episode in the final season of Mad Men, episode 710, The Forecast. And I really enjoyed this one. There was a lot of great stuff.
Let's start at the apartment like the episode does, where Don's realtor wakes him up.
Who disturbs my slumber?
What is that?
The Aladdin.
Is Don a diamond in the rough?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of more of the same in the apartment this week.
But for once we have someone straight up telling Don to his face, you're kind of pathetic, dude.
It looks like a sad person lives here.
And he's kind of stone-faced to that. I don't think it affects him in that moment, at least.
No, I don't think so either, because I think that he's aware of it. I mean, in his general attitude that we've seen in the last these three episodes of the second half, he doesn't really give a shit. The wine spills in the first episode of this half season. It's still there. He hasn't gotten it cleaned up, and I think that that's indicative of his total attitude. It looks like a sad man lives here, and he's like, well, yep, I guess you're right.
I guess you're right, because initially I thought that it was him in denial, but maybe it is just quiet, sad acceptance.
I think so. Don's a capable person. He could have hired somebody to refurnish his apartment in a heartbeat, and he didn't because he doesn't give a shit.
But it seems like this episode is maybe unique in that Don is starting to give a shit about something, and that's the future.
For most of this episode, I thought that that was kind of the theme of the episode, was this idea of looking to the future. What is the future? The forecast, exactly. When Roger gives him that assignment to write, as Roger puts it, a Gettysburg Address speech.
You know how he should have started it.
I know you're all feeling the darkness here today.
He's given this speech before. The Don storyline at the apartment is Don trying to move away from his past. And the Don storyline at the firm is him trying to surmise where the firm is going in the future. And it's no surprise that he has trouble with that. Don looks to Ted, who's always been kind of a pie-in-the-sky person before Peggy evidently broke him.
Just broke him.
And then Peggy, who's obviously all throughout the series been this kind of vision of what's to come. Ultimately, none of them succeed in providing that kind of vision of the future Don needs.
That affects him.
It does.
He's searching everyone for an answer and can't find it. And he definitely can't find it within himself.
No, and I think that a good way of illustrating that is when he goes in to approve the Peter Pan peanut butter people pitch, and he turns down the first tag, which does suck. But when they give him the second one
tink and you're hooked.
It's not better. It's just not as bad. Don accepting that is not the Don who fixed the right guard pitch. Or the airline, he drives Peggy to the "what did you bring me, daddy?" Even at his lowest point, Don was still able to come up with a good idea. And this is Don without ideas, without a clear vision of what the future is going to be.
And he seems affected by it. He seems sad because of it. And a lot of it rings back to the mid-season premiere of Is This All There Is? When he asks Peggy, what do you want to become the first female creative director?
What's next?
And it appears as though Peggy, Ted, Roger have not had these thoughts, or at least not enough to provide any sort of meaningful answer to Don.
There's a lot of callbacks in this episode to even just the previous ones. There's the Is This All There Is? And then there's also Stan's Everything Good I've Done is from a long time ago. Don asked Meredith to find the press release from SCDP, which is 1963. He asked Ted about St. Joseph's, which was Ted's big achievement that we saw. It's all resting on laurels.
One thing I didn't like was those shots of Don looking through magazines with 1970 on the cover. It just seemed to be like, we're in the future. Remember that? I'm just surprised he didn't turn another magazine cover and it's like, Beatles, break up. Before we move on, just wanted to say, anyone else think that Mathis and his buddy looks like a reject Black Keys? That's all I think when I see that.
That's so fantastic.
One quick side note on Don, because I always love pointing this out in the series. When he's talking into the dictaphone, he says, let's assume that it's good, referring to the present. And this just goes along with what I think is a series-long theme of people doing things because that's what people do. It's a phrase that's said often, and I think it's what drives Don to do what he does, and also why he is unhappy, is because he's doing what he's supposed to do, and he's finding it hollow. I just like that this episode had Don thinking about the future more. He had a great parenting moment with Sally at the end that was really heartwarming, akin to her saying that she loves him.
I love you.
And I think maybe those moments are prompted by the fact that twice in this episode, Don tells other people to not blame their failures on him,
Don't blame your failure on me. Take responsibility for your failure.
and both of them respond to him with laser beam criticism. First, the realtor telling him a sad man lives here. Second, Mathis telling him, hey, you're only where you are because you're so handsome and not everyone can be that way. Even though he responds blankly to the realtor and by firing Mathis, I think they do reside in him and prompt that later moment with Sally.
It really struck me how after that moment with Mathis, the episode turns completely and forgets about the future, pretty much, and it becomes about Sally being the product of these two very good-looking people and what that means for her going forward. Throughout the episode, she's really just observing people observe her parents, and it's something that really affects her, especially with Glen.
Do we think Sally has always had latent feelings for Glen?
I don't think Sally has feelings for Glen at all.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. I think that they are close friends and nothing more.
You don't think she was ever jealous when Glen came over to her at the boarding school and went into the room with her friend?
I think she was jealous, but only in so much as she was just younger and not part of that. I don't think that it was specific to Glen. I think it was situational. Their relationship has never been one of romantic feelings. I think that they both were in shitty situations and they bonded over that. And it really sucks for Sally because it appears that it was just a long con by Glen to try to get with Betty.
But can you blame him? She does still look the same.
When Betty comes in and is like, oh, Glen.
That was getting
what's
creepy.
Funny?
It's funny in, like, how Michael Scott is funny.
Yeah, it's cringe comedy.
I thought they might bang at the end there.
Is it bad that I kind of wanted them to? In the worst way? This is such a horrible thing, but I kind of want to watch it happen. Like when two cars almost hit each other.
Yeah.
Because you know how much it would just ruin Sally.
Well, that's not why I want to see it.
It's so bad for so many reasons, and the worst reason is that it would just destroy a person.
Close second for the worst reason is that men everywhere will start just opening the doors on women peeing and staring at them, knowing that in 10 years that shit's gonna pay off.
And then later, her friend is blatantly hitting on Don. That just solidifies that everybody wants to just bang her parents. Sally and Don have a lot in common. They're very smart, they're very stubborn, and they're very good looking. Great moment between the two of them where Don pulls her aside and says, don't let that define you.
You're a very beautiful girl. It's up to you to be more than that.
And great moment from Kieran and Shipka where she lets it affect her for a moment and then is like, oh wait, I'm being a bitchy teenager. Bye, Dad.
Yeah, she's still 16.
Well, you know who's not 16? Joan Harris.
Joan's close to 40 now?
Don't matter.
No, sir.
Won't matter.
No, sir.
So Joan meets this guy, Richard Berghoff, in the office with Lou.
In our first episode of this series, we talked about whether or not we would see Lou, and we did.
But I specifically said I wanted to see Scout's honor. We talked about it.
But we don't get to see it.
Let me see that monkey. Hashtag show me the monkey. Let's all tweet it to Matt Weiner.
He doesn't have a Twitter. Assuming he's going to Warner Brothers, why wouldn't he take the 101 to the 134?
Do we have the cake for him? He's completed his training. You are now an official Los Angelino. Congrats. So she meets Richard Berghoff, and the other big thing is Joan doesn't want her kid.
No.
Nope. We see it right away when she's on the phone with him and it gets disconnected or whatever, and instead of calling him back, she just orders some room service.
And some French toast.
Treat yourself, Joan. You deserve it.
I don't think there's a question of whether or not she loves Kevin. Certainly she does.
It's like obligatory love.
You made the point of people doing what they're supposed to do. Joan, in theory, did what she was supposed to do, and it blew up in her face.
And I think there's no question that when she says you're ruining my life, it's not to the babysitter.
The next line after is Kevin, and I think that's very specific.
What a moment for Christina Hendricks when she's out in the hallway and just realizing what she said and just what she has and just the break in her voice.
Bye, sweetie.
Christina Hendricks is another gifted actor from this show that will probably go unrecognized by awards, and it's too bad, but there just aren't enough awards.
So what do you make of Richard Berghoff? You thought he was a con man at first.
Well, that's a joke that doesn't quite land.
I've been in prison for 5 years.
You're acting like it.
Like, that's just saying, oh, I want you like a man who's just out of prison.
Definitely thought he was being literal
Yeah,
that first
yeah,
time we
right.
watched it.
If it were earlier in the series run, a con man would have been a little bit more likely, but it turns out that he just doesn't want any kind of attachment. He's been through that, he's done with it, and he wants to be totally free. In a way, he's in a similar situation Don is in, but he knows what he wants out of his future, which is something that Don doesn't.
And you know, at first I thought it was a little unbelievable that Joan would be into this guy, but then, you know what? She was into Roger, and
She's into older guys.
yeah.
There's this threat of this could be the last time we see these characters in any significant way. If this is the last time we see Joan, at least there's a potential for something good. So yeah, any other kind of final thoughts on this one? Good episode, entertaining episode.
Where do you think Don's gonna live next?
We may not see another Don Draper residence.
We might not see anything else at this point. The last couple episodes could just be close-ups on Don saying what. Well, that about does it for our discussion of the forecast. Next week, the episode is Time and Life.
Which is the building that they're in.
The Time Life building?
The Time Life building. So I think that, again, we may not see another Draper residence.
You think he's gonna move into the office? With the threat of Peggy always peeking over the transom at him?
He's already decorated.
With his awards from 1957, 58, and 59.
Yep, and a dead man's Mets pennant.
Until then, I'm James.
And I'm James.
And this has been What's on the Box?
There are only 3 episodes left until the series finale of Mad Men.
What are you doing? Subscribe. Okay. Watch our videos here.
Thanks for watching.
Leave a comment too.
Are you really not subscribing?
You're gonna like our videos. There's even more great videos.